Well, thank you all for being here. Welcome. Most of you might know me, but my name is Rachel Kagay, and I'm the chairwoman of Maximize Northwest Missouri as a member of the Community Foundation of Northwest Missouri's Board of Directors. And as a Northwest Missouri transplant, I've come to love this region of our state, call it home, and desire to work to ensure that this remains a place that creates value and opportunity so that my own children can return here one day and build a life if they choose. So I want to really thank you for joining us for today's conversation. We know that if you're here, you share with those of us in Maximize Northwest Missouri a passion for the success of your community and our region. We are excited that you chose to spend some time with us and learn more about how you can have a direct impact on creating your community's preferred future. So as we dive in this morning, I want to make it clear that we are talking about your community, the place that you live. And so as you think about your community, I would love for you to be thinking about what could be improved. What puts it, first of all, what puts it on the map? What's great about your community? A lot of times these community development efforts start from that thinking about what's great, what could be improved, or even how has your community changed in the last 5, 10, 20 or more years, and what's stayed enduring or constant. We're really thinking about what puts your community on the map within the region at large. And we think that that's really one of the best ways to think about how it interplays with the rest of the region. So we know that not only is your community changing, but our region is changing. And not only is your community unique, but it's part of what makes the entire region special. And so we with Maximize Northwest Missouri exist to help you answer these questions, to take the answers and use them to help your community grow and prosper towards your preferred future. We exist to help you reach common goals faster as a community. Before we get to our top 5 impacts, I'd like to share just a little bit about where this even comes from and who's kind of responsible or the backbone of what we do here. So Maximize Northwest Missouri is a program of the Community Foundation of Northwest Missouri. And the Community Foundation officially began in 2012 and exists with the following mission in mind. Through regional collaboration, increase the power of charitable giving and philanthropy to transform our region into an economically vibrant area. It's from this mission and more that it's from this mission and a decade or more of research that Maximize Northwest Missouri exists today. You've heard me already mention region a couple of times, and this is the map of the 18 counties of Northwest Missouri that represents the region that the Community Foundation and Maximize Northwest Missouri exists to serve. This map shows that even within this region, we are not all the same. We come to the table with many different perspectives, needs, goals, and voices. The colors on the map just simply indicate population differences. But we know that across the region, we are interdependent. Each of our communities needs each other to succeed for the region to succeed as a whole. Maximize Northwest Missouri is about finding the win-win strategy to create a common vision for the region from our many voices. Now, I'm sure most of you already know her, but I'd like to introduce Christel Gollnick. Christel's the owner of JUPER Communications in Clinton County and serves as a vital and valuable member of our team. She really is the engine that keeps us moving within Maximize Northwest Missouri. And she'll take over for a few minutes to share about how we got to where we are today and why we believe that this work is difference making.
Well, thank you, Rachel. When the Community Foundation first started this work a decade ago, they launched a transfer of wealth study that pointed out that nearly $54 billion are in the midst of transfer in the region as older generations pass on, leaving their earthly treasure to younger generations, many of whom don't live here anymore, which means that a good chunk of that is also leaving the region. So we asked, why don't younger generations live here? What's going on with our population? I would say maybe, those of us on the line here today might be exception to that rule, right? But a deep dive into better understanding what is happening was conducted and is an ongoing study. And in this map, there's just a quick snapshot that shows the estimated percent of change from 2020 to 2030. Green is growing, yellow is fairly stable, and orange and red are losing. So even in the areas that are growing, those that are green are behind the rest of the state. And when it comes to our traded dollars, Missouri's gross domestic product, our GDP stats, are behind all of our Midwestern neighbors. Not a great story. So much more info can be found on our website, but to keep on time today and moving along, the summary point is this of this slide. We've learned that all of the infrastructure and sectors of the economy, health and safety, education, and other quality of life areas, they're much more interconnected than we often realize. And it all suffers when there are fewer people within them over time. So our region's wealth and health really depend on not only keeping and attracting more people to live, learn, earn, and play here, but also on our ability to work together across borders and balance maintaining what's great about our rural life while also being as innovative and globally connected as possible. People need to feel that they belong and that they have their life needs in today's world met here. So we believe that you and I and the many engaged citizens and leaders in our communities can actually do something about the decline by looking at our place to make sure that these three keys are met. A December 2020 Gallup poll tells us that 48% of Americans would rather live in a small rural community than in big cities if they felt that they could. And this is a drastic and I think exciting bit of hope that's largely due to the preferences of our younger workforce, those people who are in the millennial generation and now Generation Z. And I'm somebody who, through another organization, studies generational trends deeply, and just read yet another data-driven article in the Kansas City Business Journal last week about the importance of considering Generation Z. Those are the ones who are in high school, college, and in their 20s right now. They're smaller in number than the group now retiring. So just looking at the numbers alone, there are going to be fewer people in the workforce. That's a challenge. And add that to the COVID challenges that we all are familiar with. Well, you can see why this work is critical. So attracting and retaining talent can be summarized as addressing the attachments, the anchors, and the amenities of our counties and communities. And the number one reason people choose their place to live is family and friends. Okay, so we can't do much about that. But the second reason, jobs, and all of the following reasons listed on this slide, we can actually do something about. The work being done on this journey is all about ensuring local communities and the region can enhance our places, because we know that making the places that we live our lives the best it can be is what will help us keep and attract the residents that we need. We also know that the people who are here, well, we've already chosen this place. So it's important to balance any enhancements with protecting what we already love about our great rural life. We also truly believe that we're better together. So making sure that public, private, and nonprofit efforts are working together instead of in silos that could be holding each other back is critical. And recognizing opportunities across map lines and making sure that the people impacted have a chance to be a part of the decision-making process is a key part of our envisioned end goal. So several regional leaders over the years have reminded us that help is not on the way. We have to figure out how to help ourselves. So ultimately, we are simply asking, what can we do together than any one of us can do as well alone? What can we do better together to bring people around this question and learn how to answer it? Maximize Northwest Missouri's Guiding Coalition's service to the region and its communities and counties can be summed up in 4 categories. We're just going to focus on the 4th one today. Our largest endeavor is the creation of a set of resources that are deeply researched and highly proven practices for community development and next level leadership. We have learning programs, coaching, and technical assistance for individuals and groups. And to support these services and programs, you can see the number of people, communities, and organizations involved in funding or participating or supporting in some other way is growing. Those who have already been involved in some way, shape, or form are at the bottom of the screen here. So Rachel, do you want to share a little bit about our programs?
Yes. So this time together this morning is our formal invitation to join us in that 4th focus area that Christel just told us about. We are inviting you to participate in our Introduction to Community Excellence, Reaching Common Goals Faster. This program will help you and your community take action on the 5 impacts of community success that we'll be revealing momentarily. If you're curious if the Maximize Northwest Missouri approach is a fit for your community, our introduction program is for you. This is an opportunity for individuals across the region to explore our process and discover how your community can work together to reach these common goals faster. Once a small group is formed to take action on that learning together, our second level programming is offered to help communities build strong teams to accomplish community excellence. What you see on the screen here is the bedrock of what we exist to help communities accomplish. It's a simple framework that guides communities in the region through a repeating cycle that empowers progress. This cycle guides community leaders and stakeholders through a process of becoming realists by becoming aware of and seeing our current story clearly, becoming optimists by believing in what could be and casting vision for the future, followed by becoming activists by deploying a clear plan and taking action towards that preferred future. So again, what puts your community on the map? How do we keep it there? What makes your place great? As we prepare to dive into the top 5 impacts on community success, I would encourage you all to keep your community clearly in mind. How can this be helpful to the place you live, learn, earn, and play?
So let's dig into what we promised to share with you today. The first on our list is how to focus on leveling up your community or county. Why? Because taking care of the place that you and your neighbors live, learn, work, and play, as we've said, now will help ensure that it's still a great place later for your kids and grandkids and great-grandkids to do the same. This is a multi-generational journey. We don't always think about several generations of impact on our project-based decision-making today, but it is essential. Our experience so far has taught us that only the communities that are thriving across the globe, especially those that we've studied in the US, have a can-do attitude, number 1. 2, they invest in themselves with their own time, talent, and treasure through civic engagement, philanthropy, and public-private partnerships and funding. Remember, I said nobody's coming to save us, right? We have to do it ourselves. And 3, they really develop leadership across generations. They make sure that their youth are involved. They make sure that their older generations are involved, those who are retiring, and everybody in between, because we all live in our community. These are the 3 keys to growing and thriving, and the Maximize My Community, or in other words, pop your community in there, right? Journey guides community leaders through all 3 of these. It's also very important to know, what works, but it's also critical to understand what this journey is not. And I think this is a really important part of our conversation today, because it's not competitive. It's not partisan or political or duplicative. And with this in mind, you may already have some great things going on in your community. Maybe you already have some initiatives or projects that people are working on together, like Main Street or a community betterment organization or community heart and soul or WealthWorks. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head. There are others as well. They're all great models that target specific needs. And we've looked at all of them and love a lot of things about them. The journey here that we have for you that we've put together is simply the most comprehensive guide to ask and document what is happening, how it's done, how well it's working out, and who is involved, and then suggest some ways to fill the gaps and enhance what's working well. That's not competition or stepping on toes or recreating any wheels. It's all about leveling up and just simply going from good to great. So Rachel's going to share a little bit more about the who in the second impact on community success.
Absolutely. So thanks, Christel. So we believe that the second top impact, in addition to that focus on leveling up your community, is the inclusion of multiple voices, multiple diverse voices. Why should we include more people? Because listening to, respecting, and considering the perspectives of different age groups, income levels, public, private, and nonprofit sectors, and all other traditional forms of diversity help us to ensure that we know our current reality from all angles. Including multiple voices helps us think about all the strengths, assets, and aspects that our community, that put our community on the map. Yet competition with those around us tends to be so top of mind, especially on those Friday night football games, right? That we forget what gives our community its strengths. We often focus only on what's important to our immediate interests and surroundings instead of considering our whole community environment. And so we love to show this, this image to help us think about including multiple voices, because it also means that we prioritize having all the major sectors in our community at the table. And through lots of research, we found that the four most critical sectors in any community, county, or region, in addition to those that traditionally come to mind when considering diversity, are those that bring together representatives from our health, economy, education, and quality of life organizations around the same table. So what you see on this slide is a representation of who in your community might represent these four sectors. Those little shapes around the outside of those four circles might just trigger some ideas about who you might consider inviting to the table that hasn't or is currently not as active as we would like them to be, to know what's going on and how they might influence the priorities that we set for our community. When all of these sectors and individuals represented come around the same table, we're able to be many voices organizing around one vision and shared priorities for our community. For just a brief moment, think about what opportunities this could afford for your community. I like to think about what could have happened if we had all been meeting around the same table, discussing priority issues, resources, and vision before ARPA funds were made available. What could have been poised, planned, and ready to take action on the day money came into our communities? We think this model to include and invite all voices around the table empowers untold action and progress for our communities and the region. Christel, why don't you take it away with number 3?
Great, and I agree about that. Just being prepared is big. So dreaming big to include many voices to find a common goal and identified shared priorities takes some work, let's be honest, but it is really more about a shift of mindset. Sometimes zooming out and looking at the big picture helps us see better how things really are for ourselves and our neighbors. We can see how we all fit in, and we can also see what's working and what isn't working as well as we'd like it to be. So you might be asking yourself, why would looking beyond ourselves be worth our limited resources of time, talent, and treasure? I know I've asked that question myself many times, because we all wear so many hats and there are only so many hours in the day. It's sometimes difficult to see beyond the roles and the responsibilities and challenges that are right in front of us today. However, the answer really does lie in how we're all interconnected and that we all have some key shared needs and desires. We have much more in common than we don't. By focusing, I really believe this, by focusing on what we share and learning how to consider how we all influence and impact each other a little better, we can make a bigger difference together more effectively than any one of us could do on our own. It goes back to that original question that we asked ourselves earlier. And regardless of what priority is placed in the center, everyone plays a part in making it happen. The point is looking at your assets or different types of capital skill sets and strengths and build on those, as Rachel said, and those are the community capitals that you see on one side of the slide there. It's not just about money. Maximizing the potential of our communities is about so much more than just the finances. Creating a culture that includes different viewpoints helps remove bias and other types of roadblocks to getting the highest priorities taken care of first. And the journey is just an asset-based community development approach. That's an academic term, right? That builds on what's great. So we wholeheartedly believe this quote, that small groups of committed citizens in our communities can make a transformative difference. Following a guided path focused on organizing many voices around one table and empowering everyone to get away from short-sighted projects that end up being less effective than hoped for is the secret ingredient of this wise quote from anthropologist Margaret Mead. By committing thoughtfully to the Maximize My Community, remember, pop your name in there, journey, You can reach your shared goals faster than doing the same things over and over. And the tools and resources within the journey don't magically have all the answers. I'd love to say they do, but I can definitely tell you this. It can feel a little miraculous when people start actually working together with more intention in a unified manner. You just kind of sit back and you go, wow, I didn't think this was possible, but it really is. So another favorite quote is one, and I didn't put it on the screen here today, but it's one by Edward Deming, who said that every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. Now, if you really think about that, is the system, or another way of saying that, the way things get done around here in your community, is it getting the best results it can get? Is it getting what you actually intend for it to be getting? So this framework, very quickly, it's full of proven practices that have helped many communities and companies for decades change and enhance their way of doing things to get different and better results. The step-by-step approach is what we share with you in our Introduction to Community Excellence program, and more deeply coach through our Building Strong Teams program. Our team doesn't really want you to duplicate or recreate any efforts that you may already be implementing in your community or your organization. We're simply here to uplift and help you make those efforts their best. And if you and your community are not amid another program, you don't have something like this already going on, you have the benefit of finding the most helpful resources for rural leaders in one place. You can think of it like Maximize's how-to guide for sustainable community development as a buffet of all the best research in one plate, saving you the time and money of researching it all for yourself. That's what we're here for.
Yes.
Rachel? I'll let you take over the fourth one.
Sounds great. The fourth impact on community success is an organized and empowered group that is ready to move beyond being reactive to prepared and working together. So traditional efforts in our communities tend to be project-based, right? We find a great idea of something we want to create or establish or renew in our community, and we get started on that one project. We're often reacting to the idea shared, an opportunity presented, taking action, and then moving on to the next thing without a big picture organized approach. Why is it so difficult to move beyond being reactive? Of course, there's a number of reasons, but one of which is because we don't always trust each other enough to do what it takes to be proactive, build the relationships necessary to discuss and align plans, and invest in collective priorities beyond basic cooperation. Let's face it, we get so busy doing things the way they've always been done and fiercely protecting ourselves or our organizations that we find it difficult to imagine any other possibilities or know how to sort through what traditions are still relevant and which ones could use some updating. And I'm not pointing the finger at anyone in particular here, because we all can have a natural tendency towards this, right? I know I'm certainly guilty of that. But when we can do this, when we can move from being reactive to proactive, to aligned and integrated, it empowers us to move toward active collaboration to ensure the best outcomes for the largest number of people and organizations in our communities. Our approach has an impact on community success because we provide the tools and support to move from being many reactive voices operating in silos within our communities towards aligned and integrated teams with one clear vision. So we like to call this aligned, integrated, and action-taking effort collaboration. This is very different from our traditional models of working together. We have a tendency in communities to compete, cooperate, or collaborate. Each has their own place, but they also can fall short of sustainable, transformative action toward community development. We believe that collaborating is more than just getting on the same page or openly discussing topics and shared priorities. Collaboration goes beyond planning to getting things done well, sustainably, and together. It takes longer for sure, but it's worth the effort. It's what creates sustainable success. It is collaboration with an emphasis on action, actually doing something together with a focus on joint, mutual, and common goals. Collaboration empowers us to make fact-informed decisions together, putting in the effort and weighing choices after considering many perspectives, and doing something specific with the intention of progressing onward and upward together. So this might sound high and lofty, right? Moving to an integrated and collaborative acting team within your community might sound like, well, that sounds nice, but how do we do that? But we know that this is a key impact on community success. It does require a shift in thinking together, but never fear. We don't expect you to do this alone. Through our introduction to community excellence and other programs, we teach you tools and strategies and coach you along the way to support, uplift, and help you on your journey. So throughout the program, we teach and share many different tools and discover how to create breakthrough thinking together. Participants are provided to become more empowered and organized in working together. An additional, and I personally believe, crucial effort or benefit is the sustainability of this approach. Because through the strategies and resources shared, we help your community put together a plan that empowers action for the long term. I'm sure I'm not alone, so put yourself in this scenario. Have you ever been involved in an effort or project that has a ton of energy at the first, but then tends to die out or lose steam when a key individual has to step away? Maybe it was the lead organizer of the group, the person with the most energy, or the person that held all the information. Through the tools and processes we provide, this hurdle can be overcome. And I think that's really exciting. But Christel's going to take it over and bring us home with the fifth impact.
Great, thanks, Rachel. So the fifth impact is being able to access answers and opportunities. Why is it so difficult to think and act differently to get different and better results? We keep asking this question and over because I struggle with this one personally. But I do think it's because once we start considering lots of perspectives and data and possibilities, it's really easy to get overwhelmed with the complexity of it all. And instead of slowing down just enough to more thoughtfully organize and empower ourselves and each other, we just keep forging blindly ahead, making little progress sometimes, right? That's just human nature because we have this need to pump out activity results, output results, right? People want to know that we're busy. And sometimes just being busy isn't really being productive in a meaningful way to get to our answers. So we include all of this in the journey, and the journey unfolds a whole set of key questions at each milestone that can really help us uncover equitable and inclusive answers. That's really important today, and open doors to solutions and opportunities that may not have been considered in the past simply because we didn't stop long enough to ask ourselves the right questions to figure out those answers. So they also reveal data that informs our decision-making beyond traditional assumptions, opinions, and perceptions. I don't know about you, but I have certainly made decisions sometimes without all of the right information, and it ended up not being such a great decision. It's really helpful to have data-informed decision-making a part of your leadership. So sustainability of efforts is built on that trust that springs from transparency and meaningful conversations that are really prompted through all of the questions through the framework. It's that simple. And a community that's engaging in the Maximize My Community Journey framework will often begin with these question answering and conversations as a small group, right? All it takes is a few people. We said that in Margaret Mead's quote. A small group of community champions and or leaders from diverse areas of the community who all care about the current and future state of the community coming together, right? We call this a core committed group who drive this effort together, the guiding coalition. You'll hear more about this distributed leadership idea or shared leadership idea in our programs. It's a different way of thinking about things because communities don't have CEOs or executive directors, if you will, right? It's not a hierarchy. There's a lot of people working in a community. But this small group really can be successful because when they begin by conversing about the big ideas for the near and distant future or an urgent need, you definitely want people to be curious enough to want answers and develop an appreciation for a broader perspective and desire to understand the facts. If people aren't even curious enough to have a conversation, it's probably not going to fly. And you also need to identify a sense of urgency as a group to really see your reality clearly, as we said, and to take action. And finally, everyone on your team needs to just simply agree that making progress on a shared dream or vision and not on personal agendas or vendettas is worth it and is the only focus of your collaborative efforts.
Great. So we have just shared the top 5 impacts on community success that you can experience as benefits as you engage with us in our Introduction to Community Excellence program. What we'd like to do now is just take a few minutes here to share with you some of the tremendous progress that is happening across the region and those communities who have adopted our Maximize Northwest Missouri model for community excellence, and see if you can put yourself in the shoes of accomplishing some of this great success in your own community. So first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Albany and Gentry County. And Albany has been with us since the beginning, since well before I was involved in this effort. And so we could spend our full time today discussing some of the amazing things that are happening in Albany, but I'd like to highlight just a few. Since organizing as a group, as Maximize Albany, they are currently focused on 3 priorities: expanding early childhood education and childcare options, revitalizing their downtown, and due to the proximity of their Mosaic Hospital, developing retirement-focused ventures for those who would like to retire in a community like Albany with all it has to offer, in addition to the proximity to healthcare. So a few exciting recent developments are the hospital providing a space to offer childcare and early childhood development as a center for the community that could open as early as next fall, which is huge progress because I'm sure we're all aware, especially in times post-COVID, how desperate childcare needs are in our small communities. One of the second big outcomes that they've had, again, I'm summarizing years of progress here in a couple of seconds, but in identifying the need for downtown revitalization, they started a Main Street program because they saw the clear benefit. And from what we've learned, and what they've learned, many new businesses have developed in their business district in the last few years, including, I believe, just 3 in the last few weeks. This demonstrates the impact of our model to empower organized action without competing with or taking over existing successful efforts in a community. So these are just a few of the really top high-level impacts that they've had from organizing as Maximize Albany. Christel, will you tell us about some of our other communities?
Yeah, so Clinton County is another really interesting study. So unlike Albany's leaders who have been through the challenges of learning along with us as we've figured out what resources are most needed and make the most sense in our region's communities, Clinton County is a little different. The multi-community group on the southern edge of our region has not historically worked well together at all. I don't think that's a secret to anyone, but they are the first team in the region that has no history with similar approaches who committed to following the journey, and they're making excellent progress. They've completed a very informational, comprehensive Dream Big countywide listening project to simply better understand what residents are thinking, feeling, and needing. And while that has been going on, the collaborative conversations have sparked several innovative projects and partnerships, resulting in the opening of a student-driven retail store. That's a partnership between the school district, the Clinton County Initiative, and MU Extension. Also, they've helped secure, just by getting the word out about all the programs of MU Extension, they've made sure that funding has been secured countywide for that program. They've conducted a cutting-edge broadband technology experiment project, and they've even remodeled a senior center in one of the communities. So these are some of the small short-term wins that are all aligned and on the outside might seem like unrelated projects, but because they're all part of some of the grander envisioned end goals, shared priorities across the county. They can all kind of be tracked back to these conversations that have been catalyzed by the set of questions within the journey. And the key to their success so far is simply just making sure that representatives are actively involved from each of their communities. They have much more to do, but it really is fun to watch them help themselves by opening up to this conversation. And it just didn't ever take place before. So it's really kind of a fun thing to see. We also have a couple of other communities too that have benefited from engaging in parts of the journey with us over the years. Maryville's economic development leaders credit the framework for helping them bring people together who had never worked together before. They have several projects that are benefiting from a shift in mindset to be more collaborative, namely a lot of their downtown revitalization. That's been helpful. And in Lynn County, both Brookfield and Marceline have prioritized leadership development and also downtown revitalization as their focus through conversations that were prompted by this approach over the years. So first of all, thank you for listening to the 5 biggest impacts on community success. This was just a super quick overview of key things happening in communities who have engaged in the journey so far. We hope you will find this approach effective in preparing yourself and your community for great opportunities as well. So in summary, we're confident that you'll raise awareness of your community's best elements. You'll bring people together in a way that's productive and positive. Establish a can-do attitude if it's not already there, and build bedrock relationships, processes, and resources that, when present, really allow your community to take advantage of opportunities and solve problems much faster because you are already working together.
Thank you, Christel. We want your community to become one of our success stories, not for our benefit, but for the benefit of your residents and our region as a whole. So we want to formally invite you to join us for our next Introduction to Community Excellence, Reaching Common Goals Faster program. On the screen, you'll see a QR code that you can scan now with your phone to take you right to the registration page, or you can visit the website listed here as well. Our next program will kick off on Wednesday, January 18th, and a second opportunity will be offered early next year, starting on April 19th. This is a 6-session program with each session lasting 90 minutes. Once registered, you can visit the second website listed to pay your registration for the program. Registration is $300 per person, or if you can find 3 people from your community to participate together, the cost is $750. I'm sure, as you can see, as you think through these 5 impacts we've just discussed, that when you can find even that small team of 3 from your community to experience this learning opportunity together, we can really make impact even faster in your community. And we can help you think creatively about where in your community you might be able to find financial support to participate if that's a need. As a reminder, we have been recording this session and we'll make the recording available on our website if you know of others in your community who may be interested in exploring this option and helping your community get that discount on 3 registrations. If someone would rather join us live than watch a replay, we will be hosting this webinar again on December 15th at 4 p.m. and on January 11th at 12 p.m. Before we close out our time together, we know you may have questions, and so is there anything we can answer for you? Okay, well, thank you so much for the investment of your time today. If you have additional questions, please contact us at the email here on the final slide, or you can visit us at maximizenorthwestmissouri.org. So thank you so much for your time and have an excellent day.